The Decoration Perfectionist, a Midnight Cat Cafe story. December 22nd, around 11 at night. The tree still wasn't right. Corinne had been decorating for 6 hours. 6 hours of adjusting and stepping back and frowning and adjusting again. The ornaments weren't distributed evenly. One string of lights was slightly warmer than the others. She could see the colour difference if she squinted, and the star at the top tilted to the left, no matter how many times she straightened it. She'd compared her tree to 17 photos online. It matched none of them. The living room smelled like pine and frustration. Her back ached from reaching. She had glitter on her hands that she couldn't get off. One more adjustment. One more step back. One more assessment. Still wrong. She'd grabbed her coat before she could make a decision she'd regret, like tearing the whole thing down and starting over at midnight. The cafe appeared on a corner she'd walked past 100 times without seeing. The air inside smelled like peppermint and chocolate. String lights traced the brick walls in loops that weren't quite even. Some of the bulbs were slightly brighter than others. The arrangement looked deliberately casual, or maybe just honestly imperfect. Corinne found herself staring at those lights. They weren't symmetrical. They weren't perfect. And somehow, they were beautiful anyway. The woman behind the counter had silver-streaked hair and kind eyes. Decorating battle? How can you tell? Pine needles on your sweater, tinsel in your hair? Clara smiled gently, and you have the look of someone who's been fighting something that refuses to cooperate. Corinne reached up and found the tinsel, silver, catching the light. She pulled it out and held it for a moment, not sure what to do with it. I have a peppermint hot chocolate that's very forgiving, Clara said, and the nice thing about it is that it never looks the same twice. The swirl is always different. The hot chocolate arrived with a spiral of cream on top, asymmetrical, one side taller than the other, a small drizzle of chocolate sauce that hadn't quite hit the center. It was perfect anyway. Corinne found a seat near the window and wrapped her hands around the warm mug. Her shoulders ached. Her eyes were tired from scrutinizing details for hours. The black cat on the nearby table was watching her. She was sleek and dark, with 2 different colored eyes, one blue, one green. The mismatched gaze was striking rather than strange, like she was seeing the world from 2 different perspectives at once. The cat held completely still, then shifted position, and the way the light caught her eyes changed entirely. The same cat, but different. A new angle, a new effect. That's Luna, Clara said, setting down a small cookie. She sees things in her own way. Luna rose from the table. She stretched first, long and slow, her back curving, her claws extending briefly into the wood. Then she stepped down and crossed toward Corinne's chair. She didn't hurry. Each step landed where she meant it to land. She moved like something liquid, something unhurried, something that had never once rushed to meet anyone's expectations. She jumped onto Corinne's lap. The landing was exact. She'd calculated the trajectory and found it acceptable. She settled, circled once, settled again. Her purr started, subtle and low, a sound that came and went, like something you weren't quite sure you'd heard. Corin looked down at those mismatched eyes, blue and green, different but belonging to the same face. "Your eyes don't match," she said. Luna blinked slowly, one eye, then the other. "That should be wrong, shouldn't it? Like my lights, like my star." Corin stroked Luna's sleek fur. "But it's not wrong. It's actually beautiful. It makes you look like you know something the rest of us don't." Luna shifted, and the light in her eyes changed again. The blue caught a warm reflection from the string lights. The green went deeper, more mysterious. Same cat, different angle, completely new effect. "The Pinterest trees all have this perfect balance," Corin said quietly. Luna's ear rotated toward her voice. "Same amount of red and gold on each side. Lights evenly spaced. Everything symmetrical. And mine looks like—" She trailed off. "I don't know. Like someone actually decorated it, by hand, in real life." The cat began grooming herself, one paw extended, tongue working over the fur in slow passes. Then the other paw. She wasn't rushing, wasn't performing for anyone, just taking care of what needed taking care of. "I've adjusted that star 11 times. 11. It still leans to the left." Corin sipped her hot chocolate. The peppermint was cool and sweet against the warm milk. "The hook might be bent, or the top of the tree might be crooked. I don't know anymore. I've been staring at it so long I can't see it properly." Luna looked up at her, those mismatched eyes held steady. "What if the tree isn't supposed to look like the photos? What if the crooked star is just honest? What if it tells the truth about who decorated it?" The cafe hummed with its quiet rhythm. The radiator clicked. Someone across the room turned a page. The string lights, uneven, imperfect, warm, cast their amber glow across everything. Corin thought about her grandmother's tree. It had been a mess every year. Handmade ornaments from 4 generations of kids, tinsel in clumps because the grandchildren were allowed to throw it, lights that didn't quite match because they'd been accumulated over decades from different stores, different years, different lives. She'd loved that tree, loved it more than any catalogue-perfect tree she'd ever seen. "Grandma's tree was never Pinterest-worthy," she said, "but when I think about Christmas, that's the tree I see. That's the one that felt like home." Luna stretched on her lap, a long, slow stretch that showed complete comfort, complete trust. "Maybe my tree isn't supposed to look like a photo. Maybe it's supposed to look like mine." Clara appeared with the check. "For whenever you're ready, no rush." "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "The lights in here, they're not symmetrical. Did you do that on purpose?" Clara looked up at them. "You know, I don't remember anymore. I think I tried to make them even once, years ago, but they kept settling into their own arrangement. Eventually, I stopped fighting it. And you like them this way? I love them this way. They look like lights that someone actually hung, not lights that someone arranged. She smiled. There's a difference. Luna hopped down from Corinne's lap. She padded toward the back of the cafe, tail high, already thinking about whatever came next. The walk home was cold and clear. Corinne's breath made small clouds in the air. The houses she passed all had their trees in windows, some perfect, some chaotic, most somewhere in between. She climbed her porch steps, unlocked the door, stepped inside and looked at her tree. The star still tilted left. The lights still didn't quite match. The ornaments still clustered more on one side than the other. But standing here now, in the soft glow, it looked different than it had 6 hours ago. It looked like a tree that someone had decorated, someone with hands and preferences and a history, not a professional, not a catalogue, just a person who wanted her home to feel like Christmas. Corinne made herself a cup of tea. The water boiled, the steam rose, and she didn't measure anything precisely, just poured until it felt like enough. The tea was slightly too strong. She didn't fix it. She sat on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, and looked at her imperfect tree in her imperfect room. The star leaned left. The lights glowed their two slightly different temperatures of warm. And it was beautiful. Actually beautiful. Because it was real. She let her eyes soften, let the details blur into a general warmth and glow. This was her tree, her home, her Christmas. Not a photo, not a performance, just hers. Her eyes grew heavy, the lights blurred further, and she let herself rest. Rest with the imperfect, the good enough, the real. Hers. Just hers.